It was always a big part of what I do, especially boy bands, girl bands, things like that. It was always very vocal led. And what I learned to do was called spinning in. So you'd take your multi-track, you'd do a chorus of backing vocals,
Hmm.
and then you'd get a mix of those backing vocals and bounce them onto another tape machine, like
Yeah.
a half-inch reel-to-reel.
Hmm.
And what you would then have to do is go to the next chorus on your multi-track and cue it up, and then go to your where you've bounced the tape, the tape, and you'd have to
Hmm.
roll it back, get to give it half a turn allow for a spin up, and you just sit there counting like this: 1, 2, 3, coming up to the chorus, put it into record, hit the play button, and hope it just stand in time. And then
Wow.
you'd bounce that in. Sometimes you'd do it, and it'd be like, brilliant. Sometimes you'd miss it a little bit off. Got to do it again, and it took a while, but it was a damn sight quicker than singing it all over again. So
Yeah.
technology, of course, is vital to being able to do things quicker, and of course that brings in a different level of invention altogether. So sampling comes along, right, and then everyone's just like, "This is a disaster. This is you can just take other people's work and and use it in your own record." And of course there were inevitable lawsuits for doing that, and they continue to be, right?
Yeah.
So, but what happens with new technology is people start to use it creatively, and it becomes an art form, an expression, and it sort of finds its level, and then people realize, you know what, I don't want to get sued, so they don't risk it unnecessarily because the music industry is so litigious, and it has to be to protect its rights.
Yeah.
But so what starts happening then is you find creative ways around it. And the idea now of being able to go to a website, of which there are a few, you
Hmm.
type in the track that you want to sample, you type in the duration of the track that you want to sample. It gives you a fee, what they want for that, and also what percentage they want of your song. You sign a contract and you've got clearance.
Hmm.
That idea just a few years ago would have felt like, I mean, it's never going to happen. So these things adapt, right? People adapt to the technologies, like drum machines. Drummers are going to be put out of business. Everyone was frightened. Of course they weren't. Of course they weren't, because these things move like fashion. And of course, drum machines are brilliant for what they do, and the style of music they're used in. Sampling is an amazing technology that allows us then to have access to instruments we'd never dream of being able to access.
Hmm.
So when AI pops along, and I hear about AI vocals, for instance, now
Yep.
being a composer for musical theatre and needing different kind of actors and different to do my demos, so I'm doing my demos, I'd sing them all. But you don't want to send that to a director. It's a male vocal, but it needs to be female.
Hmm.
So the idea of getting in session singers, and that's what I would not conventionally do. But if you've got a tight deadline, I found a website that allows me to subscribe and also make sure that whoever's voices they cloned for
Hmm.
this AI software get credit and they get paid like a
Yeah.
session
Right.
singer. It's not as good as a session singer, but
Hmm.
it's probably more worldwide, and they'd benefit as a result. So I've chosen a more ethical way of doing that, but it's fantastic for me as a producer, to be able to just present ideas. I would never use them commercially. I just
Yeah.
never would, because I just you can't get the kind of expression you want from an actor or a singer. But as a tool to be able to just say, just use your imagination. This is a female part now. I can sing all these parts in. As a tool, it's really useful for me as a creator.
Right. Uh-huh.
That's all good, right? That's all good, because I feel there's an ethical way of using AI and technology. As a result, we've got programs like Suno. Now,
Yeah.
I
So
can
that.
hear your musician viewers going boo boo, and I'm with you. I'm with you, because it's extremely dangerous to just unleash this technology without any guardrails and without any guidelines.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's turning into a legal quagmire. Who owns what at what point? Even to the point where I know a lot of producers. Max Martin does this, for instance, with his team. They write a song, and they can, before they pitch it to an artist or whatever, a label, they throw it into Suno and give it a few prompts to say, I want to hear this as a sort of jazz vibe. I want to hear this with a sort of gospel vibe. And
All
they'll
right.
listen to it and kind of go, wow, it really works like that. And what Max then does is says to his guys, now recreate it yourself, but in that style. We can tell that it works. So as a quick way of like mirroring your work, and it
Hmm.
comes back to it. The problem is this. What we know of AI is it's just scraped the internet, right? And it's
Yeah. Uh-huh.
pulled it all together into what we now refer to as a slop bucket. And all it can ever do is regurgitate what it's learned.
Yeah.
Now, what it's regurgitating is someone's work, right?
Yeah. That's
It
it.
is. And when it comes to music, it's more identifiable in all kinds of ways than say poetry
Hmm.
or art in that distinct chord progressions and feel and melodies. People are sued on the feel of a song, not even the chords or whatever. Think about Blurred Lines,
Yeah.
on the feel of a record. So there's some real danger here, and I've just chosen to ignore it completely and not use Suno because I just think it's too risky. I don't think it's ethical. I
Yeah.
don't like the way they're going about it in terms of holding their hands up. Well, it's just technology. Whatever happens if you use it is yours. They're changing the goalposts every day. It
Yeah.
feels like new T's and C's come out without any announcement. All of a sudden, if you prompt it, you don't own anything anymore. Even now, if you and Suno, throws up some ideas that then you use,
Hmm.
you're not going to own them, and someone's going to come looking for it. And I just think that we're days
So
away from the first major league Suno lawsuit. So
yeah.
listen, man, I'm not a Luddite.
Like,
I love technology. I've used it all my career, but there are guidelines that need to be laid down. That not just legal, I mean ethical. I'm a musician, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter. So I'm always artist first in all of these decisions. That's my honest appraisal.
yeah, of course, man. Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's way too many almost potholes with that Suno kind of thing. There's way too many things that can get you in trouble, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
it's not right. Because like I actually like asked it to make a song in the style of like a Paramore pop punk kind of thing, and it done it. It was absolutely it was amazing.
yeah.
The song was really catchy,
That's
and
the
I was like,
danger, isn't it? Because it's really
yeah,
good.
it's
Yeah,
amazing. But it also gives you like some sort of like imposter syndrome as well, because you know a tool can actually write better than you if you think about
yeah,
it that way.
yeah, yeah. But
Um,
but you know what though? Here's the thing, and obviously I've been writing for over 30 years and making records and stuff, and I'm extremely lucky that I grew up at the time I did, and the wave of technology being what it was, and affordable sampling, affordable computers, affordable sequencers, and recording technology, Logic and Pro Tools and stuff. I've come through all of that and benefited from it all. But here's the thing that what it can't do, it can regurgitate melody and chords and progression. What it can't do is honesty. It
yeah,
can't do pain either. AI can't do that. It doesn't know what that is. It
it's not
could
emotion.
replicate someone's perspective on that or what they've written about or whatever. But when it comes down to what actually touches us as human beings, beyond the impressive shiny bit of wow, it sounds amazing, just get under the hood like we do with the music that we love. The music that is in our DNA that's found its way into the soundtrack of our lives is probably because we've come through some kind of painful situation with it, some
Mhm.
kind of honesty that's meant we've allowed it into our DNA, and
Yeah.
it can't do that. And I don't think it ever will. I just don't think it will. It can't get there.
Next thing I kind of want to talk about is just the again like talking about identity and the imitation kind of side of things. So if I asked AI to create a song in the style of what you would write in, like with the Space Girls and all that kind of thing,
Oh, I see.
would you find it kind of flattering, or would you find it threatening, or what's your kind of thoughts on that?
I honestly wouldn't care. I
Yeah.
think that I think if you've had enough success, people are gonna try to analyze what it is you do. I remember, I remember coming into my studio one day and seeing someone flicking through my S1000 sample discs,
Right.
like floppy discs,
Yeah.
and they were
Uh-huh.
sort of. I just caught someone just sort of flicking through the. I'd got one of those cases with all the sample discs in,
Hmm.
and flicking through it, and I sort of saw him doing it, and I went, what are you looking for? And he went, your secret. And I said, it's not in a snare drum, mate. It's not in a horn sample or a loop.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And I think that the way we learn from other musicians, and I've had the privilege of writing with some of my like Burt Bacharach, my legends, the Daryl Hall, Brian Adams, Gary Barlow on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And every time I sit with Gaz, I learn something else. And I'm flattered by the fact that he says the same about me, because the challenge then isn't to do what they do; it's to try to do something they wouldn't do. And like Gary and I are currently working on a musical and various other things, and we challenge each other. And I love the day when I send him something and he calls me and goes, "Oh mate, where's that come from?" Because it's like that's the actual challenge, not to sound like he does that really well. There's already a me in the world doing it. But what's kind of cool is I listen to Burt Bacharach songs, or what Max Martin. Max is a great songwriter. And I listen to pop songs he's written, and I go, wow, I can't do that. I can do what I do, and it might sound a bit like that to the average person. My next door neighbor might not be able to tell the difference between the two pop songs. But what I'm listening to, is him, his talent, where he goes with it, Burt Bacharach, where he doesn't go most of the time, actually, where it's unpredictable. But these things, so Suno is only going to do an impression in the same way that we see people doing tribute acts. It's a really glossy. That's actually a good way of describing it. It's a really glossy, cheap tribute act.
The next thing I kind of like to talk about is the kind of labor aspect of things, like jobs and all that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So, as performers, so much of what we do is invisible. The repetition, the defining, the muscle memory kind of thing. So, if AI can generate something in seconds that mimics user development, do you think that changes how audience perceive skill, or do you think the human story behind the music will always matter more, or do you think people who listen to AI music will just think it's just music and it doesn't care who wrote it, or kind of
I
thing?
think that there are people who listen to music who listen, and it breezes over them and it fills the space.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who hear music where it touches, and there's the majority of people, I'm glad to say, where it touches them and they feel something as a result. And those people are going to know and feel it, because it's, sometimes something sounds nice. It's like elevator music. It's not offensive. It's just there, right? It's just to occupy the space. And that's fine. And I think that that's where it will find itself, because here's the reality, if you go to see a band and there's just the singer and his, backing track, you kind of you disengage, because it's just difficult. And that's not against, I'm not against singer songwriters who go out and do their own thing and they've created their own tracks. I think that's amazing. But if that's what the act is, and that's what you learn, you've paid your money for, that this guy is standing up there, he's not done his time, or whatever, people won't come. They just won't. And it's like I say, it'll fill space in terms of, oh, look at this, it's fancy. But nothing compares to going in a room with a bunch of people that are playing music, and it's sound waves coming through air, generated by someone, a human being, could at any moment play something you're not going to expect. And that nothing replicates that. I'm lucky enough to be able to see this in a theatre, when you see a cast of actors bring your characters to life, and you see this, you see and you hear the music, and you see it. It's like a blanket that falls over an audience, and at the right point it makes people cry. At the right point it makes people laugh. It's remarkable. And here's the amazing thing: is you can go from into the theatre on a different night, and it's the same show, and the audience react differently. The audience are it's like a creature that is different every time you go in that room. And that's what being human is, man. That's what the unpredictability, the the subtle changes in, you know, the way people come in, the frame of mind they're in, what they've been through that day. They're just so incredibly variable that it can't be replicated.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of performance. You can't. It's difficult to quantify. I say to students all the time, "What was the gig that you did that you went to that made a profound change here? What can you remember? What was your favorite gig?" And a lot of students say, "Oh, I went to see Beyonce. It was blah blah." You go, "Great, okay, great. Beyonce is amazing. What was the song that made you remember it?"
Hmm.
I don't know as well. It must be a melody or a lyric, something specific. Well, no, I can't. I said, that's exactly it. You just know you felt differently, that
Yeah.
you went out feeling something you didn't come in with. That's the job of an artist. An artist knows instinctively that what they're doing is transferring emotion, and the
Yeah.
vehicle to get it to you is the song. And what they're great at, what artists are great at, is making you feel something
Hmm.
that you didn't feel before you came in. I don't know if a computer can do that. It's never been able to do it so far. I don't see
Yeah.
it doing it in the future.
Only thing
That's
I'd
fun.
Yeah, only thing I'd say is I know this isn't AI, right? But the ABBA thing down in London, the hologram
Yeah,
kind of thing, it's like I get that that's real music created by obviously ABBA, but part of me thinks it's like what's stopping AI from just like creating the hologram with AI
yeah,
music
and,
on top
and
of
you know it's a good point, and I've heard amazing results about ABBA and that ABBA thing, and you kind of go, "Wow, it's really clever," and
it?
then I've heard people go and see it like more than once and come out going, "Ah,
No, it's different.
actually,
Yeah,
it's literally identical every night." You know what I
right.
mean? I mean,
I
even if you, yeah, a lot of the bands I've worked with, I remember doing I've done a few albums with Donny Osmond, who's a delightful man,
mhm.
and I remember sitting in his tour bus thing, his caravan thing, you know, before he
Yeah.
goes on stage, and I saw him go off into the corner, and he's on his own. He's got his head in his hand like this,
Hmm.
and he's talking. And I'm thinking, oh, he must be praying or something. I can't better go and leave it. And I needed to go and have a wee, so I had to walk past him. And what he was doing was rehearsing his lines and
All
what he
right.
wanted to say. This is someone who's been doing it since he was 5 years old. So I watched the gig that night, and I heard him, and he would say similar things, but it would subtly change from the night before. And afterwards, I said to him, "I caught you rehearsing your line." And he said, "You know what?" He says, "My problem is I go so much with the room and the feeling in the room. I just want to remember what the important stuff is that I want people to know about that song or my memories or whatever." He says, "But yeah," he says, "it changes every night." He says, "My trouble is that the fans need certain information, you know, that my motivation for doing this record or what it's important stuff." He says, "And I get too emotional and lost in the moment, or someone's face on the front row, you know, or someone in a wheelchair or whatever." He says, "I just get lost in the
Yeah.
moment." He says, "So I have to remind myself these are the anchor points." And I just realized then that it doesn't matter if you've got a script or whatever, there are going to be subtle changes every night that make it unique as a performance. And that's what being a human is. You're not going to get that from the ABBA show. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're not going to
Uh-huh.
get that because it can't adapt that
Yeah.
quickly.
That's
So
it.
so it's like I say, it's shiny. Woo, look at that. That's clever. But are you going to go again? How many times have you got to see your favorite band? You know, we go and
Yeah.
see them over and over again. If it was
Mhm.
exactly the same show, how many times would you go?
No, no, exactly. Yeah, you wouldn't go that much, would you?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So again, it has a place. It's a shiny new thing, and everyone talks about it, and it earns a lot of money, and then it's done.
fade
You
out,
know?
yeah. Or they'll do more, you never know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So I to overall kind of sum that up then, just there's no space for an AI on a stage then. Just there's nothing for that.
Do you know what? I'd like to think in the same way that we do with technology. There are things that AI can. I saw a thing Jimmy Carr did on stage, and someone said, "Are you worried about AI?" And he said his answer was brilliant, and it said, "Left brain stuff, it's brilliant." I might have got that the wrong mind. It might be right way brain. I think it is. Left brain stuff is great because it's lists. Anything you're going to do that needs lists of information, going to the moon or doing something really hard that's technical that needs a, it's going to be great because it can help you get detail right. You know, so
Yeah,
if you're in a job that requires you don't with information, that you get these details and you rely on them, it can
Hmm.
help you. But when it comes to the opposite side of your brain that relies on soul and spirit and memory and experience and pain and love, it can't help you. It can only give you. I could read you from this book here by Alan Watts, a philosopher. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I could read you what he's read, but I can't tell you how he felt after he sat down and had scrambled eggs. I can't tell you that because it's not in this book. So
Yeah.
it's all I can ever give you is what I've read about him. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And sort of share my perspective on it and regurgitate it. But I can't tell you what he's like. I don't know what
Yeah.
his house smells like. These are the subtle things that make us who we are that it can't do. So I don't think it'll have the bit. I think the bit that everyone's worried about is what we've just talked about. It's shiny, it's new. Is that going to distract? And it is going to distract some people because they can't really tell the difference. But they're
Hmm.
not really hearing music anyway. They're listening to it,
Hmm.
and the people that hear it are the people that you want to get to. Um, you just have to find new ways of getting to them. I think that
Yeah.
that's the challenge more than worried about technology.
Yeah. Amazing. So saying like 10 years time, then what does a songwriting session kind of look like in your eyes? Is it
I
starting to go
think,
down that way, or is it going to
well,
stay
I've been doing it for 30 years and it's the same. It
Yeah.
doesn't
So
matter. The technology actually doesn't really affect us. Listen, I've worked with some people who are like track people who, you go into a room and they've got a few backing tracks and you start there and then you make edits and you change it because you're human and you want to, I remember one time working with a guy and he was just like, I said, can we change the key there? And he was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And it was just like, and I turned around to the publisher. I said, do you call this guy a songwriter? And I think that you cut your cloth, and it's like, do you know that guy probably does what he does really well, but it's not what I do.
Yeah.
So I don't see. I'm doing songwriting camps this year, residential songwriting camps, and it's going to be people in a room with a keyboard and a guitar, or not, a singer or a lyricist, it's going to be human, and then technology will play a part in getting the demo together or whatever, and they'll have, they might just use your phone. I tend to use my phone all the time just to get an idea in, and then you take it into a studio and do what you do then. But I can't see it changing. I just can't. I think there's going to be gadgets. There's always gadgets. There's
Hmm.
always way. I had a dictaphone before. I just use my telephone now. So technology's not really moved on that much. It's just capturing, right? All it's doing is capturing.
Yeah.
So I think, you know what? I think it will be useful to a lot of people. I know people use it for lyric ideas, and that's kind of cool. I get that. You could prompt, you're struggling with a thing. I'm trying to say this, and it gives you a few, and you kind of go, "Oh, that's interesting." But I've talked to people who do this. Oh, I'm not going to use that, but it's a kind of interesting angle. Uh, That's no different from this, right? Or this, and
Yeah.
kind of going through it and kind of going, "Oh, there's an idea there that I'm going to sort of, that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to plagiarize it. I'll make it mine."
Right. Uh
And,
huh.
and if you do plagiarize it, you end up paying the price, and it's just not worth it. So personally, I can't see it changing that much. I think what touches people is humanity and pain and love, and I can't see that changing.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. So, just like as a little passing question, so if AI had existed when you were just starting out as being a songwriter and a producer, do you think it would affected your journey, or would it have
That's a
helped?
good
Would it have
question.
hindered?
If you grew up with that, I mean, I've got a solid argument against it because of my experience. But if I was in, a struggling kid in my bedroom trying to learn an instrument, and all of a sudden I had this technology that I could access through my phone
Hmm.
that allowed me to write a song. There's something, again, there's going to be someone who kind of goes, wow, look how good I am. And then there's a part of you, if you're an artist, that kind of goes, I didn't really do that.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it. And if at some point the law says you didn't do that, just try and style that one out if you can. And you don't learn anything. So, again, I think that even using technology is a good thing to try because it's experiential. Even if you use it to decide that's not for me, I
Hmm.
think I'm not a luddite, and I'm not like a don't use technology. I'm not going to be there with my pitchfork.
Yeah.
I think that I think all of these things are there to be experienced, and they just tend to find their level. I've had a sampler. Now I mean, I could use my phone to sample. I've had a sampler in my array of technology for best part of 30 years,
Hmm.
and it doesn't change the way I write a song. I don't turn to it straight away and go, "What have I got in here that's going to inspire?" I just don't do that. And some
Yeah.
people might do, electronic dance music composers I know work differently to say me,
Hmm.
and that's fantastic because what they end up creating is something that touches people because they're a human being. So I think that it should be tried and you should experience it. But I think that first of all, and I say this to everybody in music, and let it come from a place of honesty because at that point, um, only good things can happen.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great, man. Absolutely. I've got, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to show you a little example of like an AI
Yeah.
song on Spotify. I just want your opinion on it.
Is
Totally AI.
this is an AI band, isn't it?
It's totally, it's fully AI. I just want to know your kind of. I'm just going to play like 30 seconds of it, and just I want to kind of hear your opinion.
Dust on the wind, boots on the ground, smoke in the sky, no peace found. Rivers run red, the drums roll slow. Tell me, brother, where do we go? Raise your hand, don't look away. Sing out loud, make them pay. March for peace, not for pride. Let that flag turn with the tide.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it sounds
Yeah,
really good.
it's
And
weird.
I
Yeah.
can, and I know what they're doing there, and I can hear where they're prompted from and what the references are and all the rest of it. And
Hmm.
it's cool. Listen, it's not offensive, is it?
Yeah.
It's
Uh-huh.
not that it's horrible to listen to or whatever. It's funny actually. I think AI has a sound in the same way that you can see it in photos now. That just has a look, right? It's probably to do with when it comes to photo, it doesn't know what light is. Do you know what I mean? It
Hmm.
only knows what light is from other photos. So
Yeah.
you can sort of see that it looks a bit funky. I think AI has a sort of quirky sound. It's to do with the frequencies in the mastering of it, I think.
Hmm.
Because it's not being mixed, it's not got that sort of movement of that you tend to find in record. But that's listen, I'm being really stupidly technical there, and because I know it's AI, a
Hmm.
part of my stomach's rumbling, But you can't deny that it sounds good. If
Yeah.
you're looking to fill some space with music, you could think of worse things you could do than that.
Yeah.
Um, does it move me? I don't know. I'd have to listen to it a few times to see if there was anything in it that I related to. I'm sure that there's subject matter in those lyrics that might be similar to an experience I've had. You know what I mean? I can't stop playing the new Kathleen Edwards album,
Hmm.
Billionaire. I can't stop playing it. It's literally, I had a thing from Tidal saying that I've played the whole album 99 times in the last few weeks. And it's because I just can't get it off. I can't stop playing it.
Yeah.
And because every song I keep shifting in that way that you do with an album, where
Hmm.
every song then becomes the new favorite.
Hmm.
Um, it's so if you listen to that, would it feel the same way? I don't know. On
Yeah.
first listen, you kind of go, yeah, it's impressive, but I don't know if I'm going to give it enough time to get in and impress me beyond it being kind of wow, that's clever.
100%.
Whatever. I don't feel threatened. I don't feel, scared by it. It's just a shiny new thing.
Yeah. Well, the reason I found out about that band is because actually, I seen my mum was listening to it on Spotify, and I was like, you do realise that as a computer. It's like, it's not real. And she's like, what? What are you talking about?
That's funny.
So,
That's
honestly,
funny.
it's absolutely hilarious. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah, listen, that's all I need to do. And thank
Okay,
you,
man.
Elliot, man, honestly. Really, really good to hear your kind of view on things and all that kind of thing.
Super,
So,
man. So I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the things I want to touch on is my app Mixer,
yeah, go ahead.
because and my point of launching it right now is that it's not AI. It's an app that supports real songwriters, real artists using their real multi-track that split into stems in the same way that a lot of these AI engines do stem separation. But this is actually an original record by the original musicians, and that you can record yourself along and sing along and share within the Mixer community. So it's a new way of experiencing music that you love and artists that you care for. But here's the kicker: it's not AI, it's not streaming, it's sales. It's a record shop. So
Right.
they get paid. We pay up to 70% through to our artists. And I've done this because I'm a songwriter and a musician. And I just think it's time we need to respect that again. So while ever it's an app and it's shiny and all the rest of it, I just think it was time for something that got back to some of those values that I love about music and people love about music. You know that vinyl is now a viable product again, over $1.5 billion last year. But here's the kicker: 50% of people buying records don't even have a record player. So what does that tell you about emotional attachment to music? That you want to go on, you physically want to buy something, even though you've got your streaming and all the rest of it, that has its place. It's on your phone and in your headphones, but it's not like a vinyl. I've got loads of them. And so I'm trying to do that with Mixer, that it feels like there's an emotional attachment because you've acquired it and you're supporting that artist. So that's
Brilliant.
my sort of answer to a lot of what's going on with AI. I want to go take a step back to when it felt human.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think it's a great thing, 100%, just to kind of step back and go to that, because it's going down a dangerous path now with that. So
yeah, it is. But you know what? It's a tunnel, and people come out of tunnels, and you leave behind what you don't need, and you'll learn something in the process. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it for musicians either. I think I think people want to see people playing instruments and singing. I don't think it's going to...
Brilliant. That's amazing. Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Honestly,
so welcome, bud. Right on.
Right.